Good day to all of you and welcome back to Daily Slices. I want to apologize first of all for not being able to post a video in the last few days because I've been a bit busy. But today I'm back and I welcome you back to my channel. And in a special way, today I would like to tell all of you, any one of you who has not yet subscribed to my channel, I welcome you to subscribe to my channel so that we can grow together. This is a channel about the Bible, Christianity, and modern life. So I'm welcoming all of you to subscribe below and on to the topic of today. And as you can see, the topic today we want to discuss about a topic that is affecting all of us here in Kenya and even I believe in the whole world. And this is about sexual immorality and its negative effects. And from reading the Bible, I've come to realize that sexual immorality has three major effects, three very negative effects. The first effect is to the individual, the second is to the family, that is the nuclear and the extended family, and the third effect is into the society and the nation as a whole. So for us to continue growing and be healthy, we have to learn that sexual immorality has very, very negative effects, and therefore we should avoid immorality at all costs. My brothers, my sisters, I'm urging all of you, it's a request to all of you to shun sexual immorality because it has very, very negative effects. And for this discussion today, I have written down some notes. If you see me looking down, that's because I'm just referring to what I've already written down. And on to maybe the first thing I want to discuss is the forms of sexual immorality. And here we find fornication, there is adultery, there is masturbation, there is forcing yourself onto another person. I don't want to mention the name because YouTube apparently doesn't approve mentioning that name. But it's great if you know what I'm talking about. Then we have sodomy and lesbianism. We have pornography and also polygamy. According to the Bible, especially the New Testament, it is very clear Jesus Christ does not approve of polygamy or polyandry. And so also we have bestiality and defiling. These are also forms of sexual immorality. Even though I find maybe mostly the most common forms of sexual immorality are maybe fornication, adultery, and masturbation, and watching pornography. That is among very many people. That is according to what I have researched around Nairobi and Kenya. And off to the very negative effects of sexual immorality. And the first one is, I think there are 6 of them. There are 6 very negative effects of sexual immorality. And the first one is premature death. Premature death, and especially this is for people who force themselves onto others. In other words, I'm talking about rape. Anyone who is into this thing, you will find that mostly they go into premature death. They do not finish very well. And we find in Genesis 19, the people of Sodom and Gomorrah, when the angels of God came to the house of Lot, the people of Sodom and Gomorrah that thought that these were men, and so they decided to force themselves onto them. And within less than a day, the whole of Sodom and Gomorrah had been killed, including those people. We also find in Genesis 35 the story of Jacob's daughter Dinah, there was a man who forced himself on her. And out of that forcing himself on her, the sons of Jacob took revenge and they went and they killed this man together with all of his nation, including all of his family. We can also find in the book of Judges 19 about the story of the Levite and the concubine, whereby the people of Benjamin forced themselves onto this lady up to the time they forced themselves onto her and even up to death. And we find that the other tribes of Israel, they ganged up together and they fought the people of Benjamin. And in fact, it was such a sad tale because now they had now to look for people to repopulate the tribe of Benjamin. Also, in the book of Samuel 13, we find a son of David called Amnon who raped his half-sister Tamar. And out of this, whatever he did, it is said that one of the other David's son killed this particular man because of what he had done. So we find that sexual immorality, that is the first negative effect of sexual immorality, and that is premature death. And so we should avoid and shun this kind of thing at all costs, especially if you are a born-again Christian. Another very negative effect is family conflicts and disunity. Once sexual immorality comes into your life, believe me that your family will face disunity, your family will face conflict, and it will be very hard to uproot that spirit of conflict and disunity in the family that is brought by immorality. And in the Bible, we can see Abraham. Abraham and his wife Sarah, they were very okay, even though they didn't have a child. But the moment Abraham went in and had a relationship with Hagar, it brought disunity within the family. They started having especially between Sarah and Hagar, Isaac and Ishmael, and that disunity, if only Abraham had not done what he had done and he had waited on the Lord, this disunity would not have been something that would have plagued his family. We also find in David's family, once David sinned against the Lord, that immorality came into his family. And we find now that even one brother goes with forces himself onto his sister, another brother kills that brother. We find that even later on, there was another son who wanted to take the kingdom from David, and all these things were brought by the immorality that David committed against the Lord. And therefore, let us shun sexual immorality so that disunity and conflict will not come into our families, will not come into the marriages that God has given us. Amen. Also, we find that the destinies of individuals and families are ruined, and at times completely ruined by sexual immorality. First of all, we find that one of Jacob's son, his firstborn, who was meant to receive the blessings of a firstborn, it is said that he went into his father's bed and defiled it. And out of that, when Jacob was dying, he did not bless Reuben as a father would bless his firstborn. In fact, the words that he gave Reuben were a kind of a curse that Reuben would never prosper, he would never be as big, he would never lead his nation. And that is exactly what happened to Reuben. And therefore, we find that this destiny of a firstborn was ruined and was stolen because of Reuben's immorality. Therefore, if we do not want our families, the destinies of our families and the people in our families to suffer, we should shun sexual immorality. Also, we find that when David took another man's wife, that was Bathsheba, and killed her husband Uriah, the destiny of his family was ruined. We find that even after a few generations, the kingdom of Israel was divided. It was no longer one kingdom. We also find that even much later, when Jesus Christ was born, he was being carried by a donkey from Israel, Jerusalem, to Egypt to hide from the Romans and Caesar, because that sexual immorality of David brought down his family from being kings to running away from authorities. And therefore, if we do not want the destinies of our families to be destroyed, let us shun sexual immorality. Now, also what I've found from the Bible itself is that sexual immorality leads to idolatry. It leads to Satanism, especially in the family. There is no way you can go outside your marriage and commit adultery, that person you are with is not a godly person, and therefore the risk of that person bringing in the spirit of idolatry, witchcraft, and even satanism in the family, it's very highly likely. And we find that Solomon, because of his love of women, those women brought in idolatry. They brought in Satanism into his family and to his kingdom, and Israel started facing very many problems because of that, those wives that Solomon brought in. So, if we do not want Satanism, if we do not want witchcraft and idolatry coming right into the families that God has given us, let us shun sexual immorality at all costs. And the fifth one is that we will find that the death of whole families, sometimes the death of whole families and whole societies, happen because of these societies. They live with sexual immorality, they in fact encourage it, and they do nothing to stop it. That happens very many times. We find that in Genesis, when Dinah was that man forced himself on her, we find that what happened is that the sons of Jacob, they took swords and they took their weapons and they went and they slaughtered that man and his family and his whole village. That would not have happened if that man had not forced himself on that lady. Also, we find also in Sodom and Gomorrah, these men, the men of Sodom and Gomorrah, they wanted to force themselves on other men. And because of that, Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed and it never came back. Also, we find in the story of the Levite and his concubine, when the men of Benjamin, when they forced themselves on this woman, the tribe of Benjamin went from being the second largest into the smallest. This is because they faced war from the other tribes. And therefore, my brothers and my sisters, I encourage us, let us shun away sexual immorality. If we do not want our societies, our families to completely die off, let us shun this kind of immorality that the devil brings into our life so that our families can face destruction. And the last one, the last point is that I find from the Bible that once someone engages in sexual immorality, that vice multiplies within his life and his family. We find that David, once he came and he went in with another man's wife, the immorality started multiplying, not only in his family, in his children, but even in his later generations. One brother forcing himself on another, on his sister. We find that King Solomon had a love for foreign women, many foreign women. This kind of thing, this kind of spirit, I think it was brought in by the fact that David himself brought in that spirit of sexual immorality into the family. Therefore, my brothers and my sisters, let us be true to God. Let us love the word of the Lord. Let us love the dictates of the Lord, because if we do not, we ourselves as individuals, our families, and even our societies, we are going to face very many problems. And that is all I had for us today. I encourage us to continue being strong in the Lord, and surely He shall see us through. And good day to all of you.